Get it started. Well, good evening, friends, and a very warm welcome once again to this investor awareness program done through the NaveMarg Foundation. And a very big welcome to our guest speaker for today, Mr. Phal, who is the branch head of Tata Mutual Fund here in Goa. In fact, I'm sure most of you must be safe and healthy at present. And so I hope you all are taking very good precautions as far as the COVID pandemic is concerned. In fact, many of our friends have actually got this, they got into this COVID positive condition, but fortunately, most of them have recovered. We didn't have any much of hospital admissions as such. So the thing has come under control. So I'm very happy that now it's almost coming back to normal. So on behalf of NaveMarg Foundation, once again, I would like to welcome each and every one of you all and also thank you all for taking your time out to attend this valuable program. Now, coming to the budget 2022, as it was presented by our Honorable Finance Minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. In fact, most of the times, like even many years back, always the budget used to be on the 28th of February. Now, for the last few years, it has been changed to the 1st of February so that we get extra time for getting the things tested as well as implemented before the new financial year starts. And this year, the budget has been quite exciting on one side. On one side, no much changes, but there is something in store which every one of you must definitely learn from today's presentation. In fact, I was very fortunate that yesterday when I was in the Panjim office at 91 Springboard, I just happened to first go through all the budget highlights and I was going through it and I was finding some tricky questions which were coming from the clients. And exactly at that time, I was in a meeting with Samir and I just happened to ask him one question with regards to what is this virtual digital currency. And the way he explained and showed this, I said, I think you are the best person to be the speaker for today. And fortunately, he agreed immediately. And I'm very much thankful for him to agree to actually take this opportunity to present this budget in a format whichever is very, very easy to understand as far as we as investors are concerned. Definitely after his presentation, we will throw open the floor for question and answers. You can ask any of your questions, whatever doubts you have with regards to this budget. And then, of course, as an icing to the cake, I will let you know some secrets on how this budget can help us grow rich very fast. So if you want to know that, we always keep the best for the last, so that I will do it at the end of it. So now I would like to invite Mr. Samir, who is the cluster head, or I should say the branch head of Tata Mutual Fund in Goa, to take over and do his presentation on this budget 2022. Over to you, Samir. You can unmute yourself and you can even share the screen in case you... In the meantime, by the time he sets up, if in case you have any specific questions now you want to ask in the beginning, you can always put it on the chat box and we will try and answer it as the time passes by. But we'll try and finish this program exactly by 8. Yeah. So over to you, Samir. You can start with this presentation.
Doctor, is the screen visible?
No, the screen is still not shared.
Now?
Yeah, now it is come. Yeah, now it is come.
First of all, big thank you to Dr. Celso. I'm humbled that he thought that I am a person who he can consider to address this large meeting. Dr. Celso is not just somebody who we know through our profession, but he's a public figure in his right now. In fact, he is applauded everywhere as a COVID warrior and a person who brings a lot of people together. He has been at the forefront of spreading financial literacy across Goa. And I have been in this business for the last 16 years. So maybe somehow that's why my focus shifts towards the activities which he is doing and all. But in general, there are a lot of people in general public who look at him, who have got inspired from him, who have learned the art of saving investment from his talks. And NaveMarg is not just an organization which is aiding in spreading financial literacy across Goa, but was at the forefront of COVID fight when Goa was reeling under the pandemic. So I still remember Dr. Celso being present in many of the places, handing out oximeters, handing out essential goods at the time of distress. So first of all, it's a very big honor to be called by you to present in front of your audience, because I know the connect you have with your audience and the way you take care of them. You don't really invite any refresh to go and interact with them. So I'm humbled that you called me for this. And I would like to take this opportunity to present my organization, myself, to just give you some highlights of this budget. I want to make this session interactive, because what happens is if we just talk about budget, like how the finance minister gives a complete account of budget, it becomes very monotonous, because budget is a pretty big event in India's day-to-day life, because it affects all of us in some way or the other. Maybe not directly, indirectly, it will always have some or the other effect on it. And especially when it comes to financial investment, it has a pretty big bearing. So I'll just start with it. The key highlights, I have just put it on a presentation, which have been jotted out in this budget. One is called ECLGS scheme. So this ECLGS scheme was basically launched by government during the pandemic time. It is giving emergency credit line to many of these smaller companies. Because what happened is a lot of these companies went through a lot of distress with not just their sale, it's also with procurement of raw materials and getting finances, and it had a very drastic effect. So what happens is a multiplier effect. One company shuts down, it affects not just the employees, it affects the employees, it affects the distributors, it affects the finances, so on and so forth. So anything closing down has a multiple ripple effect. So in order to aid people or aid companies in that distress time, ECLGS scheme was started. which was initially started at 2.5 lakh crore, which they have hiked it to 5 lakh crore. Then they have also made a mention of affordable housing, wherein they have identified about 18 lakh households under affordable housing scheme. One of the things which has happened after pandemic, especially which is relevant in our context also, we would have actually liked to interact with you in person. But due to pandemic, now we have to interact with you in a remote way. And that has, I guess, most of you guys must have encountered it in your daily life. That is how it has affected the schooling system in not just India, across the world. Wherein what has happened is all the education now is being imparted through online media, through internet, and through television, or through uh, digital media. So what government has also done is they have started channels for specific classes, wherein what they are saying is you will have one class, one TV channel program under the aegis of PM E-Vaidya, and they will also bring it in different regional languages. In Goa, since we mostly are fluent in English, it doesn't have such a big bearing on us. But in many states where vernacular language is very important, these guys are going to launch a channel so that a class can be educated via online media, and which is affordable because not everybody has an internet connection, but most people do have access to TV. One of the big announcement is e-passport rollout. Most of the time, in fact, everybody roams with a physical passport now, and there is a very big danger of losing it out in the hassle of going to the embassy to get it done, especially if you're stuck abroad. So government has come with a very novel scheme called e-passport, wherein they will have your passport, which will be internationally accepted in a soft copy. So that is another scheme which is pretty ambitious, which they want to roll out. The details are still awaited. There is 100% 1.5 lakh. Post office has been one of the primary source of connecting with by bigger commercial banks. Scheduled commercial banks are all your limited banks which come under RBI control. One of the big announcement which they have done is they want to grow the highway network by 25,000 kilometers in FY23. So what they want to do is it's a pretty ambitious target, which is roughly about 35% increase in present capacity which they have, which they want to bring out through. Government will also, there's a very big focus on bringing out battery swapping for policy for electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are getting a lot of focus by the government throughout. In fact, even for people who are not aware, there is subsidy linked to it, which gives you a tax rebate if you buy an electric vehicle from Goa government also, which is how they are promoting clean energy, because vehicular pollution has been one of the banes which has affected us very badly. They've also launched a Kisan drone thing for crop assessment with digitization of land record, because vast tracts of land becomes difficult to monitor it manually. Uh, all of us are interacting with each other now, especially on media like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, especially because of one thing which has come in our life now is 4G. 4G has made it very accessible for us to interact with each other via video mechanism, which, if you ask, as somebody who was born in 1980s, even for me, imagining this 5 years back would have been almost impossible. Now, what they're also doing is they are having a spectrum option for 5G mobile services, which will which will actually have another whole dimension as to how we interact with each other. The biggest announcement of this budget, the highlight of this budget, is capital expenditure has been increased by 35%, from 5.4 lakh crores to 7.5 lakh crores. Government has two budgets, two basic spending. Whatever revenue government generates, it spends on two basic things. One is called uh, your capital expenditure, and one is called revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure is the emergency expenditure which you have to undertake for taking care of, say, a flood or paying salaries or any of these things, which in actually manufacturing languages is called working capital. Capital expenditure is the one which you use to build a long-term asset. To give you an example of a factory to be built, you require capital expenditure. When you are putting a plant, you're putting machinery, you're buying land, that is called capital expenditure. But the factory also needs day-to-day expenses. which is buying your raw material. Suppose you're making ice cream, you require sugar, you require ice, and that you require on daily basis. That is your working capital, which is like your revenue expenditure. Then we are also talking about introducing a digital rupee via blockchain. Uh, Government is also trying to give a lot of focus to states to improve upon their own infrastructure. So states are supposed to get about 1 lakh crore as a 50-year interest-free loan under PM Gati Shakti. Because one of the biggest lacunas which India faces is connectivity. Our road connectivity, our railway connectivity is still far, far behind. When we want to improve and take us to a next step, we are lagging behind primarily because of our infrastructure. Actual expenditure required in one estimate for India is about 100 lakh crore. But they have started with 1 lakh crore, which is a good thing. Then there is another specific mention which she made, which got a lot of highlight on social media, was virtual asset to be taxed at 30%. This is basically your cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency has become a buzzword. Your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your Cardano, all these Dogecoin, all these assets. Now government doesn't really consider it as a currency. It has termed it as an asset. Till now, there was no specific mechanism. In fact, even now, it is not fully legal. But what government is going to do is, government has said any money you make through trading of this or sale of this, you will have to pay a 30% tax. Okay. Then they have also increased the tax deduction for NPS contribution to 14% for state government employees. They have also allocated 19,500 crore to boost manufacturing of solar modules, because one of the things which they are moving forward to is clean energy. So to increase consumption or production of solar energy, they have allocated about 19,500 crore. Last but not the least, in fact, which is the highlight for most of us sitting over here, is direct income tax, which is what is the thing which directly affects us, our income tax slabs, our income tax deduction. In that, she has not made any change. One of the things which came out through this budget was government's intent of a long-term budget. What happens is everybody thought, and this was market expectation, that with five crucial states coming up for election, government will announce subsidies, government will look at it from a purely political point of view, and will make some allocation towards. Maybe they will make in the coming days, but in the budget itself, they have not made any mention of it. In the budget, they have stuck to it that we have a long-term vision. These are the things which we need to do. These are the things which are needed to kickstart and take us to the 5 trillion GDP mark, which is what we want to stick to. These were the highlights. If anybody has any question or any specific you want to discuss, please go ahead.
Yeah. Any questions from anyone on this? Any doubts to understand any of these points what he has raised? Means these are the highlights which have come on the budget. So any questions from us, from the participants? Okay, one question I would like to put up to Samir is, can you explain regarding this long-term capital gains tax, which they have increased the surcharge? Something has come as a surcharge. What is this exactly?
Actually, doctor, they have decreased.
Especially on mutual funds.
No, actually, they have decreased. Doctor, what happens is, when you look at long-term capital gains tax, when they speak about 20%, especially on your debt mutual fund, or 10% on your equity mutual fund, it is not just 10%. 10% is the base. Plus, they have cess, they have education cess, they have Jan Kalyan cess, and they have something called surcharge. Now, that surcharge differs from person to person according to your tax bracket. So, it goes as high as 37% for the person falling in the highest tax bracket. What she has said is that it will not be 37%. She has kept it at 15%. It won't exceed 15%. So the 10% capital gains tax which you see, actually it comes down to around 11.2. So it will actually fall to 11.2.
That same point, I just would like to make the investors aware, because this financial year has been a little tricky, especially for those who have actually done redemptions from the mutual funds. Because now the thing is, the capital gains tax has to be calculated the moment the transaction is done, because on that we have to pay it as an advance tax, because if it is not paid before the 31st of March, then there is interest charged, I guess. Correct or wrong?
No, doctor, you can still pay it at the end of the year, because end of the year, because they have this AIS statement now. So in that you can look at what is the capital gains you have incurred, and at the end of the financial year when you're filing taxes, you can give it in.
Means you can pay that even, but there won't be interest charge. Suppose
No,
by
no, no.
we file returns like now, in like how last
Yeah.
year that is filed in December.
Yeah.
So
So
now,
you'll have when you file the return, at that time only you have to give.
but
End
you
of
have to pay
financial
with interest.
No, that particular was only because there was some extension they have given for COVID and all. Now it will be like the usual routine.
So there won't be interest charged on the capital gains tax.
No. It will be
Because
filed at that.
most of the CAs, like even today I was with the chartered accountant, he was saying, yes, you have to give the statements to all those who have done redemptions, because the thing is the capital gains tax is applicable from day one of the sale of the this. So whilst
Doctor, what
filing
happened
returns,
is,
you need to file with the interest payment of the delay in payment of the capital gains.
because last year I remember there was a bit of confusion because they extended those dates. Earlier years you could correct it later, and second. So I will have to get some clarity over it. What CAs, because I think CAs will also have to get clarity over it, because there was some mismatch over there. In
That
fact,
is true.
one of the good things which he said is, if you have made any mistakes which might not be intentional, you have 2 years time to rectify those mistakes also going ahead. And you don't have to litigate over it. It will be accepted as a honest mistake.
But interest will be charged for the delay. That's what they mentioned even in the budget.
I will have to just check
That's
on
true.
it.
Okay. So that is one. And there's one nice question which has come on the chat box from Tanya. Can you explain digital rupee by blockchain? What does it mean?
So what happens is, a digital rupee is like your Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is an unregulated asset. Nobody knows who is the actual originator of it. Now, what has happened is, a lot of the countries are toying with the idea of introducing their own Bitcoin, digital currency, which they are talking about. Maybe it will be named as e-rupee or whatever, but it will be a fully convertible, non-centralized one. Now, we still don't know whether it will be under the purview of RBI or something, but it will be like a Bitcoin. Now, the difference between Bitcoin and, say, your electronic money is, now suppose I want to buy a Harley Davidson in, say, US. Now, what I do is I transfer Indian rupees, which I have to again convert to US dollar in US, and then I have to pay in US dollar currency. Say, best example is Tesla, because they actually made an announcement. But with Bitcoin, you don't have to reconvert anything. Tesla is going to take, say, 10 Bitcoins to buy a Tesla. So there is no rupee conversion involved. What happens with the electronic currency is, there are 3 or 4 people involved, like your UPI, if you're using UPI. If you're using bank clearing system, it is called NPCI. Or you will be using a bank SWIFT code, which you are doing for transferring foreign exchange. In blockchain currency, all these are eliminated, and you have a proper, fully convertible currency, which they're toying they're toying with the idea of launching something like that. It's not just India, across the world, they are toying with the idea of launching their own kind of cryptocurrency.
Okay. There is another question which has come from Gunjan. Will digital rupee be legal tender later in the future? At least any possibility?
At this particular time, we don't know, because they have filed a, I think they are trying, they have filed a proposal in this budget session about framing rules for cryptocurrency and digital currency. Now, in what way that comes out and what are the final modalities of that, that will give us an idea. But yes, definitely, I think that is future. But one of the things is, the biggest power the government have across the world is not the nuclear. Simply, it is your power to print money. That is the biggest power any government has in this world. They will never let it go. So, although there is a big movement by the cryptocurrency guys to decentralize it, deregulate it, but I doubt they will allow it in that particular format. They, even if they launch, they will want to launch their own currency, which they have a control, which will again be like a fiat currency, wherein all these things like borrowing, inflation, like how it affects your hard currency will be applicable for it.
Okay. So any other questions? Anybody wants to ask any questions before I take over? No questions means no much doubts. That means the thing is explained very well. So no problem as far as Samir's presentation, everything is there. So there are few key points which I have also noted besides these. And for me, from the budget perspective as well as from the investor's perspective, the one thing which I've noticed from this budget when I was actually watching it live is that the finance minister has increased the capital expenditure almost by 35% as it is showing in over here. But the way she said it, yes, the government spending is going to increase. It's going to double in the next 5 years. And with the increase in the government expenditure, definitely the industries will definitely have a better pickup because there will be more of outflow. The cash flow will be more. And the biggest thing which I've learned from her statement is because of introduction of digital currency, the main focus is now on increasing the spending, the retail spending. So retail spending will increase. So when retail spending increases, automatically the businesses get higher business. So the higher the business, higher the profits. So finally, it is going to be the equity markets, which are definitely going to shoot up now because what I have noticed and what my way of looking at it is just this month, that is the month of January, which passed, when they declared the GST figures, this year or this month it was terrific. It is 1 lakh 1 lakh means it is 1.41 lakh crore rupees collection, which was the highest ever, because previously in last April they had done that, almost touched to 1.4 lakhs. Now it has also crossed that figure and they've achieved the highest GST collection for the last month, that is in the month of January. Previously, like the target was to cross 1 lakh crores of GST, but now it is 1.4 lakh crores. So this is increasing. So the GST subscription is increasing. More and more people are actually enrolling for the GST with the GST numbers. And the way the trade is going on now, the government collection of tax has increased. And so also the government expenditure on the infrastructure, and especially what I found is in railways, because the amount of budget attached to the railways is very high, in the sense they have planned a lot of projects, and especially widening of the railway tracks, increasing double tracking and all. There's a lot of expenditure for railways as well as airports. And the infrastructure is going to be the key sector which is actually going to be benefiting from this budget. So the infrastructure sector, especially on the transport as well as aviation and all the other sectors as far as the infrastructure is concerned, are definitely going to be having a lot of impact. The funds have started increasing to all the respective states, not only from the various schemes that the Prime Minister has announced, but also from the GST itself, because I was surprised that last month the total GST contribution from the central government to Goa government was 22,000 crore rupees. So this itself was a big amount. Like, it's almost 1 year's contribution is now coming in 1 month. And that is the way at which the level of economy is growing. And if we as investors don't participate in this economy, if we don't take advantage of it, I'm 100% sure we'll be losing this opportunity of actually creating wealth through equity. Because equity is one of the only asset classes which is going to grow at this level. And especially with this budget, I feel that what I had actually envisioned of Sensex crossing 1 lakh by March 2024, we might even reach before that. Because you just keep a watch how Sensex is going to actually this, because most of us are more looking at Sensex rather than Nifty. But even Nifty touching 25,000 from 18,000 currently is not far away. Into your investments and just keeping it negligible, so then you'll be a loser. So we need to start taking more interest as far as this being a part of the Indian growth story. And I'm 100% sure that we will be able to see exactly double of what it is today within the next 2 to 3 years. And that is how the Indian government is actually planning through all the schemes that they're given. So I would request each and every one of you to take a little bit interest as far as your spendings as well as your investments are concerned, so that we can take the maximum benefit from this budget, what is there, because we can already foresee. And the biggest thing which I came to know, like even when the finance minister said it, that India is the only, what you should say, developed country which has recovered from this COVID scare the fastest. And today we are the fastest growing economy. like even USA and even say UK have still not recovered from the COVID pandemic which has happened. The economy has not recovered, but in India, the recovery was immediate. We didn't take much time to recover. And even now, even though the pandemic is increasing, still the markets are growing. Still the foreign inflow is coming. And people are really investing into India because they know that India is the hub for activity. Because of the population strength, we are able to get a lot of collection from the foreign countries, because each and every country is actually eyeing upon India, because Indian economy is so powerful that, like, I'll just give an example, like a country like Taiwan or even the country like Korea, you won't imagine more than 90% of their exports is into India. Even China, their major export is into India. So everything from, but whatever Indians are manufacturing is not going out, because we have enough of sale in India itself. So our exports is less than our imports. So when imports become more than exports, automatically inflation comes up because the dollar prices increases. And the major problem for us as India is basically the oil import, because we import a lot of crude oil. And this time during the budget, finance minister clearly mentioned it, that the average price what they have calculated as per the budget is around $75 per barrel, when actually today the price is $90 per barrel. So that will cause a very big inflation in the coming years. So the prices will definitely go up. So you'll see the cost of living increasing. So definitely investing will be a very important part as far as managing your finances is concerned. So I hope each and everyone have got some picture from this budget. Basically for me, it is that it is going to increase spending from both the sides, that is from the retail side as well as from the government side. So the more the spending, the more the economy grows, and interest rates will definitely start coming down, especially on housing loans. So the moment the housing loans come down, again, spending increases. So the more the spending, the more the collection of GST, the more the collection of GST from the government side, the more the spending comes. And that is how the economy will become the fastest growing economy in this world. So let's be a part of this economy and take the full benefit of it. Any questions still? We can still, if anybody wants to put up any questions or any remarks from.
Things is 37% of our index, Nifty, is represented by banks. And you will not have all the money with you. You will have to borrow it from banks. As you borrow it from banks find it more and more profitable to lend to you. Secondly, what happens is they are talking about increasing expenditure towards capital formation, which will also generate more employment, especially on the lower scale for construction workers, for cement, for your other distributors. It is genuinely going to have a multiplier effect and is going to increase consumption plus IT. And if you add all these three, banks, consumption, and IT, that is about 55% of the market. 55% of our index, if it is going to be on a Zoom level, you can imagine how great your equity returns will be. This budget is not such a great budget for debt market, at least till now, unless they announce the global index for debt. But for equity, this is one of the best budgets from a long time. And it is going to give the trust, because despite foreigners selling so much in the last 1 month, we have almost recovered all the falls which we had seen severely in the month of January. And in last 2 days, in fact, yesterday and today, we have seen record number of buys in our market. So the trajectory looks very positive.
Okay, so any questions from anyone? I mean, if you can just stop sharing the screen, so I will share one video with them, because the next program and this month, especially the month of February, is dedicated for this. So I will just share one video before I give the announcement. Just 1 second. Okay, this video is specially for all of you, because this month of February, this is a part of our financial literacy we have been carrying out for the last 5 years, and we have got definitely very good results.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming to help us conduct this experiment today.
We were of different ages. We were made to stand in a line.
Now I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. If your answer is a yes, step forward. If it's a no, please step back. Here goes. Ready? Did you learn how to ride a bicycle before the age of 10? Did you learn music in school? Did you take any lessons in sports? And no, video games are not a sport, even if it has the word game in it. Did you learn how to iron your clothes while still in school? Take a step forward. If not, take a step back. If you can make tea or breakfast, not just for yourselves, please step forward. If not, take a step back.
In the beginning, I think the questions were more general. People were still going forward and backward. Questions like, it was funny to see like the cooking question. There were a lot of men who went ahead and there were women who were going behind.
Do you usually make all the household bill payments yourself? Do you know the circle rate in your area? Do you know the price of gold today? Do you know the exact breakup of your salary?
As the questions unfolded, the stark difference
Initially, when you guys started moving, there wasn't such a big gap. My question is, when did this gap start to occur?
The minute the questions became about managing money, the gap between men and women became very clear and evident.
You know, women handling certain responsibilities regarding their own life, which were always passed on to someone else in the family or the men.
There was a slight unfairness I realized at that time. But at that point, it seemed normal.
I was upset. I wanted to be at the front of the line. It's like, why don't I know this? Why am I not confident enough to say, yes, I am able to understand this?
It was quite an eye-opener for me because I always depended on the men of the family to take care of my investments and, plan my future.
I felt that obviously men are more into it than women. So eventually I did expect the gap to be there.
Over the years growing up, there were certain very traditionally masculine tropes that were assigned for him and certain traditionally feminine tropes that were assigned for me.
For women, it's practically debarred to learn to know and to focus on money.
I wish I had known from the beginning of my childhood and kind of thought about that I would be doing so much better.
Just actionable measures is what we want, really.
Okay, so this is a small video of regarding the financial literacy campaign that we had actually started almost around 5 years back. And today we are very, very happy to tell you that, yes, now it is completely changed. Many women have actually started taking interest into finances. We have actually been able to educate many of the college students, especially the females, the girls, on how to be financially disciplined during this COVID times and all, because we have conducted a lot of seminars across colleges. And today, if you see, yes, we have many women taking interest into finances. That entire change has happened in the last 5 years, wherein now you will see that more and more ladies have actually started taking interest in finances. And now for this, on the 14th of February, 14th of February, when we call it the Valentine's Day or the election day, we have a special program which is arranged, wherein I have managed to get the speaker, Mr. Amit Trivedi. I don't know whether I can share you the book, whether you can see it. He is the author of Money Wise. He and Mrs. Kiran Telam, they are both from Mumbai. They have come out with one book, The Money Wise Perspectives for a Married Couple, as well as for women especially. So they will be our guest speakers on the 14th of February. This program will be held again after 6 o'clock because till 5 is the elections. So after 6, from the comfort of your home, the two speakers will be speaking actually directly from Mumbai because they are the authors of this book. And plus, we have a special offer. Now, motivate and inspire, especially the women, the working women, or even say the housewives, or even the college girls and all, to start investing through SIPs in equity. We have the special copy of this book, which is arranged. It's actually on Amazon. It's costing 500 for each copy. You can go on Amazon, Money Wise Perspectives for Women. It is actually costing 500 rupees per copy. But fortunately, we are able to get more than 50 copies of this totally sponsored. and we are going to be giving it as prizes, as a gift or a token of appreciation for our existing clients who motivate and inspire women to start investing in equity. So you as a referral giver will definitely get this, and these prizes will be announced. Actually, this whole contest is for this entire month, and the prizes will be distributed and given on the Women's Day program, which we'll be having on the 8th of March. So that time, all the women who have been become our ambassadors and have started referring either their friends or their relatives to start investing through SIPs in this month of February will be felicitated on that day, because y'all are like basically our ambassadors. And it is through you that we are able to reach out to more and more people. And this is how we try to make this financial literacy as the strongest weapon to eradicate corruption as well as poverty. So let's work together and try and achieve maximum benefit from it. And to end, as far as today's budget, once again, I will say that my summary of it is that definitely the government spending and the retail spending is going to increase, which will definitely help the equity markets to grow. So don't miss out on participating in this India's growth story and try to live a very financially secured life. Thank you once again to Mr. Samir from Tata Mutual Fund and for associating with us and being very close to NaveMarg Foundation. And a very big thank you to all the participants who have attended today's session. Should I still keep 1 minute for any questions? Anybody has any questions, you can. Okay, what I'll do is I'll give a chance to unmute yourself. You can unmute if in case you want to ask questions instead of typing on the chat box. You are free to unmute now if in case you would like to ask any questions. Okay, so no questions. So I take the thing is that there's no doubts as far as the budget is concerned. So I wish you all a very, very safe evening and take care and stay safe, I should say, and be healthy. So on behalf of NaveMarg Foundation, once again, a very big thank you and a good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Pete. Doctor.